Hey man, I need to tell you something that's gonna sting, but once you understand it, you'll never see the game the same way again. Most men don't realize this until after they've been drained, discarded, and left staring at their phone wondering what the hell just happened. Why she went cold, why she vanished, why everything that seemed to be building suddenly collapsed into nothing. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Women aren't always drawn to who you are. They're drawn to how much of your focus they can capture. For many women, your presence has nothing to do with your essence, your values, or your long-term potential. It has everything to do with your attention economy. How much of their emptiness can you fill today? How much validation can they extract from your gaze? How powerful do they feel when you notice them? They crave the psychological rush of being seen, admired, desired, and the moment you confuse that craving for genuine interest in you as a man, that's the moment you lose, because she was never chasing you. She was chasing what your eyes, your time, and your effort symbolized: power, validation, proof that she still matters, and you were just the latest source she could tap. Let me show you exactly how this works, because once you see the pattern, you'll recognize it everywhere. She posts a photo and waits for your response, not because she cares what you think, but because she's addicted to the reaction. Your like, your comment, your attention. It's a hit of dopamine that confirms she's still desirable. She texts you randomly, not because she misses you, but because she needs to know she still has you, that you're still there, that she hasn't lost her edge. She flirts with you just enough to keep you interested, not because she wants something to develop, but because your interest is a mirror that reflects her own sense of importance back to her. And if you respond quickly, if you respond affectionately, if you show genuine emotional investment, she doesn't appreciate it. She takes it as proof that you're easy to control. From that moment forward, you're no longer a man in her eyes. You're just another mirror she uses to reflect her constant need for self-importance. Another source of validation she can tap when she's feeling low. Another emotional pet she can return to whenever she needs to feel wanted. And the worst part, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. This isn't conscious manipulation for most women. It's not some calculated scheme to drain you. It's emotional impulse masked as feminine innocence. She genuinely believes she's interested. She genuinely thinks she likes you. But what she's actually responding to isn't you. It's the feeling you give her. The attention, the validation, the proof that she's worthy of being noticed. And the moment that feeling becomes predictable, the moment your attention becomes guaranteed, she loses interest. Not because you did something wrong, but because the drug stopped hitting as hard as it used to. This is why so many men feel completely empty after talking stages and casual connections. You gave her your undivided attention. You showed up. You texted back quickly. You made her feel special. You thought you were building something real, but in her mind, you were just passing time. Just another guy to text when she was bored. Just another man to validate that she's still desirable when she was feeling insecure. And the reason it messes with your mind so badly is because she acted like she was into you. She laughed at your jokes, she responded quickly, she asked you questions, she maybe even complimented you, told you things that made you feel chosen. But when the energy wasn't enough to keep feeding her ego, when your attention became predictable, familiar, expected, she vanished. No explanation, no goodbye, no closure, just gone. And you're left questioning yourself, replaying every conversation, wondering what you said wrong, what you could have done differently, how you lost someone who seemed so interested. But here's the reality you need to accept. You were never the destination. You were just a detour. She was never going to stay, because what she wanted wasn't a relationship with you. She wanted the feeling of being wanted by you. And once she got enough of that feeling, once she confirmed her own desirability through your attention, she moved on to the next source. Now stay with me here, because what I'm about to explain next reveals why this pattern keeps repeating, and why everything you've been doing has been making it worse. Here's what you need to understand about women who are addicted to attention. They become slaves to novelty, to the next like, the next compliment, the next man who's just mysterious enough to make them wonder. The moment she feels like she's figured you out, her interest dies. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your value in her perception was never in your character, your integrity, your potential as a partner. It was in your ability to keep her entertained, to keep her guessing, to keep feeding the endless hunger for validation. And this is where most men destroy themselves. They think that showing more effort will win her over, that giving more attention, more compliments, more availability will make her stay. But all it does is expose you. It reveals that your need to be chosen outweighs your ability to walk away. It shows her that you're emotionally desperate, that you don't have other options, that you need her approval to feel good about yourself. And to a woman who thrives on attention, a man without boundaries is like a dessert she can't stop eating until she's sick of it. At first it's satisfying, but eventually it becomes disgusting, overwhelming, something she needs to escape from. That's what your unlimited attention feels like to her. Not love, not devotion, suffocation. You thought you were showing her how much you cared. She experienced it as desperation she needed to run from. Here's where the whole dynamic flips, and I need you to understand this deeply. Detachment is power. Indifference is magnetic. When you become a man who is selective with his energy, who doesn't react every time she pings your emotional radar, she doesn't know how to handle it. Every other man gives his attention freely. Every other man responds immediately. Every other man compliments her, validates her, orbits around her like she's the sun, but you don't, and that creates something she almost never experiences: uncertainty. She starts wondering what's going on in your mind, why you're not like the others, what makes you so different, whether she's special enough to capture your interest or not. And that curiosity, that itch she can't scratch, is the very thing that makes you stand out in a sea of men who are too eager to give themselves away. When you stop giving attention for free, you force her to earn it, and suddenly the entire game flips. Now she's investing, now she's chasing, now she's craving your recognition, not because she suddenly understands your true value, not because she's fallen for who you really are, but because your silence spoke louder than any compliment ever could. There's a reason why women light up when a man of value ignores them. It's not because he's rude. It's not because he's playing games. It's because women are psychologically hardwired to crave the attention of the man who isn't easily impressed. He becomes a challenge, a mystery, an emotional puzzle that stimulates her mind in ways that easy attention never could. And when a woman is emotionally stimulated, not just physically attracted, but mentally obsessed, she becomes addicted. But here's the thing, most men never figure out. They never get to that point because they offer their attention up front without making her earn any of it. They flood her inbox. They chase her emotionally. They constantly try to impress, and in doing so, they remove all the mystery, all the thrill, all the tension that actually creates desire. You want to know what really drives a woman wild? It's not compliments, it's not gifts, it's not even looks. It's the man who can look her in the eye, smile calmly, and walk away without looking back. That silent confidence, that untouchable presence, that energy that says, I see you, but I don't need you. That's the energy of a man who knows that his attention is a currency, not a donation. He doesn't give it freely, he doesn't give it desperately, he gives it intentionally, selectively, only to those who have earned it. And because he doesn't give it to everyone, it actually means something. What I'm about to tell you next explains why she always comes back after ghosting you, and why giving in is the worst thing you can possibly do. Here's what happens when you disappear from a woman who is using you for attention. She feels the void, not the void of love, not the void of missing you as a person, the void of attention. You were her emotional safety net, her dopamine source, her regular reminder that she was still wanted, still desirable, still worthy of being noticed. And when you take that away, when you stop texting, stop responding, stop feeding her need, she experiences withdrawal, just like any addict. So what does she do? She comes crawling back. Not because she's changed, not because she suddenly realized your worth, not because she wants a real relationship. She needs a hit. She needs to know she still matters to you. She needs that confirmation that your attention is still available to her. And the moment you give in, the moment you start pouring energy back into her without recalibrating the dynamic, she gets her fix and vanishes again. Because she got what she came for. She confirmed that you're still there, still available, still waiting for her to grace you. with her presence. And now that she knows her supply is secure, she doesn't need to stick around. She'll come back when she needs another hit. And the cycle repeats until you finally understand what's actually happening. So how do you break this cycle? You become a man who is fulfilled with or without her, a man whose attention is not dictated by a beautiful face or clever flirtation, a man who understands that being seen is not the same as being valued, a man whose sense of worth comes from within, not from her responses to his texts. When you stop giving attention to women who haven't earned it, something powerful happens. You start to see clearly. You see who actually wants you versus who just wants something from you. You filter out the validation vampires, the emotional manipulators, the bored time wasters who never intended to build anything real. And what remains? The rare women who see you, the ones who admire your discipline, the ones who respect your time, the ones who aren't just hungry for attention, but are actually inspired by your purpose. The game changes completely when you stop chasing and start choosing, when you stop reacting and start observing, when you realize that 90% of the women who want your attention today would drop you in a heartbeat if someone slightly more exciting gave them theirs tomorrow. Once you truly see that, really understand it, you no longer play by their rules. You don't get caught up in texting games. You don't overthink her silence. You don't beg for closure or waste your nights wondering what you did wrong. Because now you understand that it was never about you to begin with. It was about her reflection in your eyes, her dopamine hits from your compliments, her emotional power trip from being desired by you. But when you take all that away and stand still in your own power, only then do you start to see who's real. Now let me show you exactly what changes in her when you stop being easy to access, because this is where everything shifts in your favor. A woman's biggest fear isn't being ignored by any man. It's being ignored by the man she wants attention from. That's why your calm detachment is so threatening to her. Not cruelty, not arrogance, but calm, silent, unshakable indifference. The kind of indifference that says, I'm not cold, I'm just not desperate. When she feels that, really feels that you don't need her attention to feel complete as a man, something shifts in her perception. Suddenly you're not one of the many, you're the exception. She becomes curious, then intrigued, then obsessed, and you didn't do anything but stay centered. That's the power you hold when you stop chasing and start observing, when you let her reveal herself before investing, when you stop trying to be liked and start living like you already respect yourself. Do you know why the man who barely looks her way drives her insane? Because he threatens her entire identity, her. Self-worth, for better or worse, is built on how much she can control the emotional temperature of the room, especially with men. When you don't flinch, when you don't chase, when you smile calmly and move on, you break her script. You force her to confront the possibility that she's not as irresistible as she believed, that not every man will fall at her feet, that maybe, just maybe, she might have to actually earn someone's attention for once, and suddenly you become the man she needs to figure out. The emotional puzzle she can't solve, the mystery she can't decode, and the more she tries to win your attention, the more she invests without even realizing it. Not because you're playing games, but because you've built yourself into a man who doesn't need to be liked. And paradoxically, that's the kind of man women can't resist. Let me break something to you that might sting, but it will set you free once you accept it. The average modern woman gets more male attention in a single week than your grandfather received from women in his entire lifetime. Likes, stares, DMs, compliments, comments, men approaching her, men orbiting her, men flooding her with validation from every direction. This constant flood has made her numb to praise. It's background noise now. She doesn't value it, she expects it. So when you try to impress her with kindness, with compliments, with emotional availability, you think you're being genuine and special, but she sees it as standard. You're just doing what every other man does, and in a sea of identical behavior, you become invisible, forgettable, just another guy giving her what she's already drowning in. That's why the man who doesn't bite the bait, the man who stays focused, detached, centered in his own purpose, becomes unforgettable, not because he played games, but because he broke the pattern. He's the one man in 100 who didn't immediately try to win her over. He's the exception that makes her question. Everything she thought she knew about her own power over men. What I'm about to tell you is why most men keep failing, even good men, honest men, and how you become the rare exception she actually respects. Most men don't fail because they're bad guys. They fail because they give attention like it's water. They pour it endlessly into any woman who shows them a little interest, a smile, a returned text, a bit of flirtation, and they don't realize that her interest was never about them. It was about the feeling they gave her. And when that feeling fades, when the attention becomes predictable, when the mystery is gone, when she's extracted everything she needed, so is she. She'll ghost, she'll pull away, she'll say things like, "You're such a nice guy," or "You deserve someone better than me." But behind those soft words is a brutal truth. She used your attention like a drug, and now she's looking for a stronger hit, a new thrill, a new source of emotional stimulation. And if you keep chasing her after that, if you keep trying to win her back with more attention, more effort, more availability, you become the fallback, the backup plan, the emotional doormat, and no woman respects the man she sees as her plan B. This is why the most powerful man is the one who can sit with his own silence, who doesn't need to text first, who doesn't need to check her story, who doesn't need to respond to every bait she throws his way. He understands that attention is leverage, that what he focuses on grows. So he's intentional about where he places his energy. He invests in himself, his mission, his peace, his purpose, and women notice. They always notice, because nothing rattles a woman more than a man who is fully present in himself, but emotionally inaccessible to her unless she earns that access. That's the kind of man she dreams about, the kind she tells her friends about, the kind she can't figure out no matter how hard she tries, and all he did was not need her. Now let me show you what happens when you finally make this shift, because this is where you stop being forgettable and become impossible to ignore. When you embody this energy, when you truly understand that your attention is your most valuable currency, everything transforms. You stop double tapping every photo, you stop responding to every text immediately, you stop being available at her every whim, and you notice something interesting happen. She starts adjusting her tone around you, being more careful with her words, more aware of your boundaries, not because you threatened her or demanded anything, but because your calmness implies consequence. She realizes she can't toy with you emotionally, that you know your worth, that you're not desperate for her validation, and that makes you dangerous. Not dangerous because you might hurt her, dangerous because she can't control you, can't predict you, can't manipulate your emotions with a pout or a cold shoulder. You're the man she can't figure out, and in a world where every guy is loud, reactive, and thirsty, your silence becomes deafening. Here's the identity shift that changes everything. You stop being a man who gives attention hoping to receive love. You become a man who commands attention because he's built something worth noticing. Your attention becomes a throne, not a leash. You don't give it to anyone who's pretty. You don't give it to anyone who flirts. You give it to women who have demonstrated emotional maturity, who respect your time, who reciprocate your energy, who bring peace into your life, not chaos. And when you live by that standard, the entire dynamic reverses. The women who used to breadcrumb you are now wondering why you stopped responding. The women who ghosted you are now showing up in your inbox trying to rekindle. The women who took your attention for granted are now working to get a fraction of what used to be free. Not because you said something clever, not because you played some manipulation game, but because you finally realized the truth that most men never understand. Attention isn't love, it's power, and when used right, it makes you unforgettable. So here's your mission going forward. Stop giving attention to women who haven't proven they deserve it. Stop trying to win over women who only want to be seen, but never want to actually see you. Stop being the emotional mirror they use to feel good about themselves. Pay attention to who respects your time, who initiates effort, who reciprocates energy, who shows up consistently without you having to beg for it. And when they don't, when you see the patterns of attention harvesting without genuine investment, don't fight, don't explain, don't try to prove your worth, just reclaim your attention. Walk away in silence, return to your purpose, let her experience what it feels like when the validation she took for granted suddenly disappears. Because the man who learns to control his focus becomes untouchable. He becomes a force. He becomes the exception in a world of desperate men competing for scraps of female attention. And the women who once overlooked him, who once used him as a source of easy validation, they start to feel something they can't explain when he's gone: longing. But by then, you'll be long gone, focused, elevated, surrounded by people who actually value your presence, not just your gaze. Let me leave you with this final truth. Most women aren't looking for love, they're looking for emotional influence, control, the thrill of being desired, and the man who fails to see this gets trapped. He thinks he's connecting when he's just being used as a mirror for her ego, a mirror for her insecurities, a mirror for her constant need to feel important. But the moment you stop being that mirror, the moment you pull back from a place of clarity, not bitterness, she feels it, because you've removed the only thing that validated her existence, your undivided, unearned attention. And that's when she realizes she can't control your energy, that you don't need her approval to feel like a man, that when she ghosts, you don't chase, when she tests, you don't flinch, when she tries to manipulate, you observe instead of react. That's when real respect begins, not because you're trying to win her, but because you've already won yourself. So remember this: your attention is sacred. It's not a discount item handed out to anyone who's attractive. It's a premium offering reserved for the rare woman who respects your discipline, shows consistency, and brings peace into your life. The man who knows his attention is sacred never begs, never chases, never proves. He chooses, he observes, he commands. He allows women to show who they are before investing, and he rewards loyalty, consistency, and emotional maturity. Not just beauty, seduction, or charm. That's how you rise above the games. That's how you stop being forgettable. That's how you become the man whose absence she feels louder than any other man's presence. Not because you were cruel, not because you manipulated her, but because you finally understood the truth. She didn't want you. She wanted your attention, and now that your attention has become a throne instead of a doormat, she has to earn the right to even stand in your presence. That, brother, is how you become unforgettable.